be chilling tonight. I need to feel tonight, man. Hey, man, where my radio, man? Yeah, let's go. I need you to turn that up. Damn it, tonight. Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
Pull the way up like we in a club. Fly flashy, grown classy, so turn it up. Saturday mornings, no walk of shame, we fresh up. 950 lounge, that's my guilty pleasure. I don't miss my favorite show, I put everything on hold. Work the baby, even the babysitter know. When 950 come on, don't bother. I'm locked in 10 to 1, no problem. Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
To my left, you know, needs really no introduction. If you grew up in the 80s, if you grew up, you know, on Thursday nights, running to the TV before we can Uber and freeze frame, if you grew up in a time when, you know what, we wanted to see positive black images on the tube, it was only really 1 or 2 shows out. He was one of the stars of them. He's a grown man now, so we ain't gonna use no kid names here. But ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a privilege to have this brother on. He's part of one that I call one of the best shows on television history, period. Ladies and gentlemen, actor Deon Richmond. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me.
No doubt, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate Shirley's hustle. I ain't want to piss you off. I'm glad, you know, we good, Shirley. I know you're listening, but, you know, but somebody tell you I call you back, let them call you back. But welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
You know, and, it's amazing, like, you know, and I'm sure it's probably not a day that doesn't go by that, you know, you get those little, you know, somebody trying to be Rudy with the words or, you know, or that talk. But talk about that time, man. I mean, you know, a child actor, you know, working with a legend on a legendary show. How was that? I mean, talk about this, how you got started with it.
It's a lot of fun, man. You know, you're working with some of, and not just one legend, but several legends, you know, and plenty of legends came through. So you get to learn a lot. You get to, you know, as you grow, you appreciate it, you know, and it's there, you know, even if you don't see it when you're young, you know, it's there. It happened. So it's a part of you once you start to grow. So it was a great experience. It was, you know, it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun.
Now talk about that process being I mean, you're from Harlem, New York.
Yeah.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you had an interview process or an audition. Yeah,
auditions, man. It was, I remember the first audition, I think it was something like 300 kids. And that was just an hour audition. You know, we were in the city, so they were auditioning in other cities as well. So there were about 300 kids the first one, and I remember.
Were they black?
Not all of them, no. Not all of them, no, you know. As shit works in TV too. Minority is a minority, you know. It was all the minorities was in there. But mostly black kids though, and the funny thing about it, when we first auditioned, for the whole process, they didn't, you know, it was a new character and they had nothing written for the character yet. It was still like a, you know, experimental character. They didn't know which way they were gonna go. So when you first auditioned for Bud, we were reading Rudy lines from like an old episode that they had already done. So we had no idea what the character was even gonna be like. Like there was no, you know, my big brother said, none of that was there yet. So we were just doing her lines from an old episode, and each kid came in, you know, and kept doing it. And then they went through the whole process, the first audition, and they called you back. And at the callback, it was less kids. It was probably about 150 kids at the callback. And then it got like crazy because then they have this, you know, it happens all the time in childhood, anything. You have these adult moments where it's like, oh shit, this is what adults are supposed to be dealing with, not kids, you know? And it was in the audition. We're all sitting there. Everybody's there. Kids are playing with toys together. Everybody that knows each other, that's been auditioning and seen each other. Everybody's hanging out or whatever in this waiting area. And they start to come out and they pull out the list and it's like a clipboard. And they're like, anyone that we name, you have to get your stuff and leave. So it's like, oh shit. Like, so it just gets like a chill over the whole room. Like, what you mean? we got to leave. And then now the seriousness starts to set in like, oh, we did just audition for a role, and it's competitive, and we all playing
Getting lined up.
Oh man!
My house with some dinner.
So when your name gets called, you know, you start grabbing shit aggressive and get my damn shit. I don't need to be here with you, mother. So these are the parents. So you know, they dragging their kid out. Come on, let's go. And it's like, oh, and that's when we were like, whoa, this is something serious. They got down to about 3 of us, and then they took us all to the studio to meet Bill and the rest of the cast. And Bill wasn't in our audition. He was never in the audition, but he kind of had this, you know, he had like this overview, you know, of the whole situation. Like he came in and said his 2 pieces, you know, met with the kids. Each one of us talked to us while we were all sitting in this area. We were all chilling with Bill. He leaves. We're waiting. We did our little audition again. We're waiting. And then finally the guy comes out. And he's like, you got it, you know, that whole process. So you lose a lot of friends, and it's crazy because, you know, they weren't really friends. We didn't all grow up together, and, you know, we weren't in the same neighborhood and all that, but we were work friends in that way where we had seen each other a million times, and we, you know, we support each other, and, you know, if you don't get the job, he gets the job, it's fine. It was never an issue until Cosby came up. It was cool when it was Lego commercials and shit. Then when Cosby came up, it was like, no, we ain't talking to them no more. So that's all of these moments happening around kids. You know, like what the hell is going on? We're not used to this.
Was it actually a long process in the auditioning, like maybe like a month? Or
No, it wasn't that long. They kind of sped it up. They kind of got to it. Like the first audition, the second audition, the callback was a week later. And then, you know, that next week they were choosing, you know. So it may have been longer, you know, when they were doing their search. They may have started elsewhere or something like that, or started in Los Angeles or something like that. And, you know, may have been a couple more weeks added to it. But I think it was one of those spur of the moment things they just kind of got lucky with, where they were like, you know, because they were experimenting with friends for her, you know, along with Peter. They wanted somebody that could talk. Somebody. They didn't want her having a silent friend she walked around with, you know.
How was your personal childhood life? Because when you're coming into the business at such a young age, how did that affect you, you know, with your family, your neighborhood, and going to school and dealing with, you know, I'm a child star, but I'm trying to have normalcy in my life? I mean,
it worked for me because I wasn't, I guess it's like a level of busyness you get to. And once you get real busy, that kind of consumes you. So I had times where I was able to have breaks, you know, like I wasn't there every episode, every week, like the rest of them. So I might have like a month off, you know, so that whole time I'm off for a month, I'm going to school regular, I'm hanging out in my neighborhood regular. And then they call me and say, you got a, you know, episode next week. Oh, okay, cool. So I was like a day player, well, not a day player, but I was a semi-regular. So I didn't have to be there every week, and it was a lot of time I had off. So I got a lot of time to chill and experience normal childhood, but at the same time, you know, you see the effects on your environment around you. You know, you see it, and that's another thing you see as a kid that is an adult thing, you know, like people changing because of who you are, you know, and you're a kid and you're seeing like adults now, and you know, people that never talk to you, they're talking to you now, and you're like,
everybody and people
like
want something,
and then people have a you know, and you're so young at the time, no one's gonna ask you for anything. They just kind of want to be around it and just, you know, gather whatever comes with it. So it's that part changes, but as a kid, you know, most kids don't change unless they're so busy that they get caught up in that. You know what I mean? Like that becomes their life, and that's when you see a change, because now they're reacting to what they're living. So that's the only time, you know, anything that you can say is different or, you know, changes. It only happens when you're working, and it usually happens to the environment around you, you know.
So what about so how was it for your first time being on the set with the cast?
It was regular. It was regular for me. You know, we were young. Keisha and I had seen each other at a couple auditions and stuff, so we were already kind of cool. Her mom kind of knew my mom.
She's from New Jersey.
She's from Jersey, yeah. So you know, it was cool. I had worked with Bill on a Jello pudding pop commercial.
Pudding pop.
Yeah, about a year before I even, you know, they even started the process of Bud. So I had met Bill once before that, so it kind of eased, you know, it was easy to do it. And then Carl was there, Carl Payne. Right. He from, you know, Polar Grounds where my family's from. So it was like right away, he was like my first friend before.
So it was some comforting.
Yeah. It was a comfortable environment. Yeah. And it wasn't, you know, in the way that it was set up, they kind of had it as a family environment, the way it was set up. So everybody that worked there was, you know, an aunt, uncle, cousin type of vibe with everybody that you were working with. So it was cool.
When was the start? Obviously, you auditioned at Cosby, but when it, obviously, with family and parents, somebody guided you to this, and you probably picked it up. When did you decide at a young age, I want to be an actor?
You don't make that decision, I think. That happens. Yeah, they make it for you. And then they ask you later, do you want to still do this? You like it? Yeah.
You got a lot to say when you do stuff. Right. Keep you acting.
So it kind of happened. My sister got into it before me. My grandfather was a jazz musician, and he was dating a German lady at the time. He was able to travel, you know. So
like Mo Better Blue.
Yeah, right. He was dating a German lady, and she came to a party, a family party, and she saw my sister who was born at the time. I wasn't born yet. And she's like, "Oh, you got to put this girl in commercials or whatever." And, you know, they just brushed it off, like, whatever. We're from Harlem, never heard about that before, never thought about it, just kept it moving. Then the lady said it again. Like, you got to put this little girl in commercials. So my mom, being who she is, decided, all right, let me ask this lady what she means. Right. Like, what do you mean? Like, what does that even mean? Put her in commercials. And she's like, oh, I have a friend who's a manager, and they just started their own company, a husband and wife team, and they'll look at her. I'm telling you, they'll put her. So my mom calls them one day, and they say, all right, well, you know, we have this management company out of our apartment. They were on Roosevelt Island. And so they were like, you know, we have this management company we starting, and, you know, we don't have an office yet, but this is our office at the house. And, well, you know what, let's just send her out on an audition so you can get comfortable with the process and figure it out. And, you know, they're teaching her how to, like, sign in her name on the sheet and stuff, you know. Like, it's going to say sign in here, then you sign that, then you tell them this part. And so she gets to the audition, and she walks in, she signs in, and the casting agent comes out, and they're looking at, like, who's this little girl, you know, like. And this is before, you know, there's no lines or anything. She's just, you know, it's just visual stuff when you're babies. So she's like, they're like, who's the little girl? Like, bring her in. You know, they bring her in a room. She has an afro, dark skin. They're like, we want her. So the first job she ever went out for, they got it. And that kind of started the momentum. And then when I was born, it was, come right away. You're in it. You can come do it and see how it is. And then I started to do it. The more I started to do it, my sister didn't want to do it. You know, she grew out of it. I grew into it. You know, so that's how we kind of started. That's exactly how we started, man. That's the lucky, you know, a chance moment.
Talking to Deon Richmond, actor extraordinaire. Go ahead, backstage.
So now I wanted to ask you, because it was one thing I just had to make sure about, because I was laughing when I was looking at it the other night.
Right.
How was it when you first did that sketch for Eddie Murphy's Raw?
Oh,
when
man.
The beginning of that.
Right. He was a child. He was Eddie Murphy as a kid.
Yeah. That was an interesting. That's an interesting development, man. Because I think I was about like 18, 19, and I was at a party. A girl I was dating, her mom was in the business, and I was at a party there at her house, and it was a kid party, you know, for her kid. So they had all the kids there, all the parents there with their kids.
Kid actors?
Yeah, no. They were just, some of them were, but they were mostly regular kids, you know, children of those kind of people. So one of the people that was there was Keenen Ivory Wayans. Now, mind you, prior to that, I couldn't, you know, I'd never met him, you know, I just, you know, I knew of him. Everything was, you know, it was over now, but it was still like right at the end of everything. So it was still fresh that he was still in living color, you know, everything. So he happened to be at the party. We sitting in the same room at the same time. All of the women leave with the kids, and it just happens to be me and him. So I'm just like, whatever, you know. We watching TV. I'm not trying to make conversation. I'm just looking at the game.
Leave me alone, man.
So then I look, and I kind of feel him staring at me, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, why is he staring at me? Like, you know, I could be staring at you. Like, we could both be staring at each other. Like, but he just kept staring. So I'm like, damn, what's going on? The next thing I know, he's right next to me. I'm like, oh, what's up? He's smiling though the whole time, just smiling, cheesing, like, what's like? And I'm like, what the hell?
Dog.
Exactly that one. So I'm like,
okay.
I'm like, what is going on? So he gets like right next to me. I look up, he's there. I'm like, what's up? He's like, you don't remember me? I'm like, yeah, of course I remember you. You know, you Keenen. Like, yeah, of course I remember you, yeah. He's like, nah, man, forget all that. You don't remember me? Like, nah, man, I'm sorry, I don't. He's like, I was one of the writers on Raw. And I'm like, oh, okay, damn, thank you, bro. You know, hey, thank you for that joke, man, because everybody remembers it, the monkey and the lion and all that. He's like, that wasn't our joke, that was your joke. Like, what do you mean? I wasn't old enough to. Then as he said it, it hit me. I'm like, oh, shoot. He's like, yeah, man, you don't remember? Your little ass came in the room. And we had all the kids separate from their parents because we had to, you know, have them tell a dirty joke. So we had to keep all the kids with the parents. We walked you in. And they said, you know, we asked you, do you know any dirty jokes? We asked every kid, do you know any dirty jokes? And most of the kids didn't know any dirty jokes. And
I'm from Harlem.
We would give them a joke. How dirty you want? I'm like, yeah, how dirty? Like,
Right next to you.
so he like, your little ass walked in there, man. We asked you, did you know any dirty jokes? And you say, yeah, I got 2. And they said, they looked at each other like, did he just say he got 2 dirty jokes? Like, all right, tell them to us. So one was the monkey and the lion joke that ended up using, and the other one was it was something I had and you know, this probably came from white kids at auditions, but it was something about the king was trying to get someone to marry his daughter, and all the men that wanted to marry her, they had to enter a challenge and bring the most ping pong balls, and each man would drag a sack in and then count the balls.
We may have kids listen.
Yeah, no, it's all right. No, it's all right.
Mommy, what
It's
do you
all right.
mean?
It's ping pong balls, and then one guy brings in a bloody
ball, mommy?
sack, and he says, you know, what's that? He's like, ping pong balls? No, I thought you said King Kongs. Right. So
Ain't got nothing
right.
on me.
It's a joke, kids.
So he said, man, by the time you walked out that room, we were in there fighting about which joke you were gonna do.
Wow.
It is a funny.
I was like, wow.
The funny thing, you thinking that you want to talk about living color.
Yeah.
And he want to talk about raw.
He want to talk about the joke that I wrote. I had no idea, and I didn't get a writer credit. I didn't get a check, none of that.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Robert Townsend, you owe me still.
Learning the part of the business.
Yeah,
right?
Eddie, you owe me.
You know, after you moved on from Cosby, it was a show that growing up I really liked. And it was Getting By with Cindy Shirley from Vernon, Cindy Williams, Thelma Hopkins, and Marilyn Santana. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
You know, so as you're moving out the Cosby stage, and it seems like, you know, from that you have some humbleness, like, yeah, you know, I know where I'm at, but I'm still Deon.
Right.
Was it easy to move in other roles?
Yeah. Because it seemed like everything else after Cosby was bigger for me, you know, personally, as far as my role in the project. So, you know, I was a guest on Cosby. Everywhere else, I was a member. You know, I was a member of the show, of the staff, technically. So it grew for me. So it was easy for me to do it because I felt like I was becoming more important in my role, you know, in my career. So it was easy, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Looking through, you know, doing the research for the show, obviously, you know, you still the Merlin Santana situation still, you know, hits home, and it's a sad situation, you know, when you have a young man, any young man, stricken down, you know, at a young age.
Yeah, man. It's tough, man, and it's just communication. It's all kind of stuff, and it just brings everything to light that's wrong with our community. You know, the fact that we're just so quick to take life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No confirmation, no proof, no evidence, you know, it just takes one wrong thing for us to take life.
Right.
And if there's any difference of any communities, that's what it is to me. I think that's what separates our community from a lot of other communities is the ability to just take life, the ability to just throw it away. I think it takes a Vegas shooter in the white community for them to become, you know, for them to take life so easily. They may do drugs at the same rate. When they show the numbers, everybody's doing drugs the same rate. Most communities reflect each other. They look exactly the same inside. Yeah. But that's what I think our community has a big problem with is the fact that it's just so easy for us to not care about life. And I think it's because we don't care about our own. So it becomes real easy for us to just take a life and throw it away. We just, and it's all connected. Everything's connected. It's how we don't feel important. It's how we feel minimalized or whatever. It's all of that connected, and that becomes how it, I guess that's the end result.
Well, we're going to definitely keep going. I know because you're a father to two daughters, twin daughters. And I know obviously what's happening in our world as a father and as a parent is certainly concerning. So we're going to move on and talk about something on a high level.
Sure.
Acting is great, but being a dad is one thing you can do. joined by the legendary Deon Richmond, you know, a.k.a. Bud, you know, whatever, little Eddie Murphy, whatever you want.
You wasn't gonna say
I'm
that.
just saying.
I did say that
I have a
though.
question though. How do you feel about people saying, "Bud"? You know, do you have, you have certain people that they don't want to be associated, especially a lot of child actors. They don't want to be associated to that name because they've been typecast, and it's hard for them to get roles outside because they played a role so well. But I see just listening to you that you was able to almost disassociate yourself from Bud a little bit and still create your own identity.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, that's always the goal when you become popular at a character. It happens to adults too. You know, when you become a character and everyone knows you as that character, it's hard to shake that character. So I think the benefit of being young is you get to grow out of it physically. You know, so hopefully you become something else physically and they can see that. But it's typecasting 101. It happens all the time. And you know, it's one of those things where I think people that are upset about it are probably more upset about what the aftermath. That's when they kind of get more upset about it, what's happening after that role. Yeah. So it never bothered me that it was, Bud was always a regular character. It wasn't like I didn't have any costumes on. I wasn't wearing crazy makeup and flying around or nothing. So it was like, you know, it was real regular.
Dressing as women.
I'll say that.
Oh, man, listen, man. That might be our issue. That might just be our issue. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at the end of the day, man. I hear that a lot. I've heard that a lot throughout. And I used to be one of those people, man, like, they trying to take your manhood and that.
We'll debate that later.
Yeah, we the only ones fighting about manhood. Like, what's going on? Why do we even have to have that fight?
But
like,
it's great that you enhanced the role and, you know, somebody yelled out, "Hey, buddy!" No, it's Bud. You know.
Yeah.
Now write me a check.
No, but I've seen people get upset, and I guess that's what it is. I can't determine. I think that's what it is. If they were super successful and, you know, you call somebody their character, I'm sure they'd be like, whatever.
They won't never forget you.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing.
I still watch.
So moving as an adult, you have 2 twin daughters. Blessings to that. I guess they're now about 8, 9 years old.
Yeah,
so 8. Get into that point. And before the break, we were dabbling a little bit about Vegas.
Yeah.
And you know, again, as you have little girls and who you're a DJ now, appreciates music, will go to constant events. You know, what do you tell your kids, man, when these things are happening? We see obviously what's happening in the White House, and you know, we're a lot. Like I talked to my nieces and nephew, and they're a little bit confused and know what to think.
Well, they shouldn't be confused. They kids. Right. Like, they shouldn't have any of that. That's our fault. If they feel what we going through, then that's our fault. They kids. They shouldn't have to deal with any of that. They shouldn't be at a concert in Vegas. They shouldn't be getting shot at. Right. You know, they're kids. They're the precious ones. So it's really a duty of ours to make sure that they don't feel our pain or share our struggle. I think too often we do that to kids, and I think that's part of why we grow up so the way we do. I don't know. I don't want to say so anything. The way we do, because we share our parents' struggle. And a lot of kids do. You know, if you were a kid in an abused home, or your family or your mother's being abused or something, you grow up with that struggle. You grow up with that pain. So it's incumbent on us to just make sure that they don't feel that. I hate when I hear a little kid talk about politics or say something crazy, because it is literally a reflection of your parents. And that's why Bud was such an important character, because they were using us to say all the things the adults wanted to say. Right. So, and that's what made it so funny. Like, I know you heard that from an adult. Like, you did not have that thought. Yeah. Like, you literally are repeating something you heard from a grown-up.
You heard everything from your brother.
Exactly. So I had a brother to blame it on.
His brother was a wise brother too.
His
brother was a pimp.
No, it wasn't a pimp. It wasn't a pimp. He was just wise.
Yeah.
He was well knowledge.
Your brother was a pimp.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know.
You say, yo, you want me to have money and cook? Yeah, that's a very
prehistoric.
Those are life lessons right there. Y'all better learn. Those are life lessons. Taught life lessons on that show.
Nowadays, I guess they would call him a conservative? Like, all this new stuff. All this new stuff.
Big shot for Kentucky. Yeah. But again, I mean, keeping it with what you just mentioned about keeping the kids, because I just saw some on Nightline where they was asking kids in California and Texas, obviously Texas being a conservative, California being a liberal, and they were asking kids in those areas about their, political views. I'm like, why are they asking 10-year-olds? But these things that happen in our schools, and I agree with you. At 9, 10, it's just still, the world should be about lollipops and
Yeah,
and gumballs.
And fantasy,
But
right.
unfortunately, it's not. We just had kids, and you live in New York, a kid just got stabbed in the school here in the city. Bullying, and these things lead to bullying. I know one person I network with is Mexican descent, and mentioned that when Trump got elected, kids in school were talking about go back to your country. He said, wait a minute, I'm from Brooklyn. You know, so what I'm saying is why I commend you for that, because you're keeping that realm around.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate that we don't have that in a lot of our households. That,
Right.
You know, what's coming on. They actually almost cheering the kids on to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, some of this stuff is just sensationalism. A lot of it is being sensationalized. A lot of it is being focused on because of what we're currently, and it's an agenda. Obviously, if you don't like him, then all of this stuff is an agenda.
Right.
Even if you do like him, it's an agenda. So a lot of this is an agenda. Kids have been bullying kids forever. I've grown up in school, and I've heard kids tell kids go back to their country when we was little. That ain't nothing new.
Right.
That ain't nothing new. But when we sensationalize it and we have moments where we discuss it like this, it becomes like, oh, that never actually happened before to your mind.
Right.
To an average person that's listening, they'll just process that as, yeah, this is some shit that Trump brought. You know, like no. I done heard kids call umbuku and all kind of stuff when we was kids, and go back home. Yeah, I done heard all that. And you know, I grew up in Harlem, so we've got Dominicans and Puerto Ricans. We've had kids that came to school that couldn't speak any English. Oh, you getting rolled on? You know what I mean? Like he got to fight. He got to beat somebody up and get him off his back. But it's the world we were living in. Nowadays, we've made it okay for kids to panic to the full extreme, and to go out and find weapons. And like the kid who stabbed the kid, he went online and bought his weapon. It was basically premeditated murder.
Right.
You bought the weapon knowing you were going to stab someone, and you were waiting to stab someone. You were waiting for that thing to happen again so you can go ahead and do it. Right. I think that's the problem when we've allowed our kids to mature too quickly. You know, you should still be a kid at 18 years old. First of all, you're stabbing a 15-year-old. Right. In our day, that would have never went down. Like you 18, you would have grabbed him in the headlock and dragged his butt across the school and
embarrassed him,
or you know.
Gave a wedgie or
and I done
something
heard,
like that
we done grew up with kids being called gay, and the gay kid punched the other kid in the face, and he ain't gay when he fighting. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just a different generation, and the reason why is because we're allowing things to happen that we didn't allow before.
And also the social media.
Everything, and it's not just everything can be shared, but even if we had social media back then, what would we have shared? We wouldn't have shared a stabbing incident. No. It would have been like 1,000 fights. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I beat him up this day. Oh yeah, I won this week. I won that week.
All right, and I left.
Yeah, it would have been.
Can't win, Rock.
But it's a different type of mentality back then. When we grew up, you know, we had parents in the house.
Yes.
Now you don't have really parental figures in the house. You got kids growing up on Instagram and Facebook. And seeing that and thinking that's the way of life. Where
it wasn't parents in the house back then either.
Yeah.
No, there was parents.
It was a different culture and a community.
Like
you might not have a parent at the house, but there's a parent at my house.
Exactly. You go outside.
You come over my house and you do that, you're gonna get in trouble. Like
somebody was
in the neighborhood, somebody in the block was watching.
Somebody gonna say something.
You knew it was gonna get back to your parents, and you gonna get that beat.
Yeah, and we knew the kids that didn't have it. It may have been less of it. That may be the answer. It may have been less fatherless homes or less parental displacement of some sort. It may have been less of it. Maybe there were kids who were, you know, at the time it felt like when we were growing up, if you were a kid and your parents, something happened or whatever, you were still around family somehow. You were still with an aunt, an uncle, or cousin. You were still around family. So I don't know. Maybe that's what's changed, and now you have kids that are out there just figuring it out on their own. This is what you get.
I really believe that we're on the same age bracket. That was kind of last days of innocence.
Yeah.
I think that's right before the crack era took off.
Yeah.
So you got crack parents having crack babies, and then that progression, grandma who's a little bit older, because grandmas were still older at that time, are taking care of the kids. They can't move the way they need to move. The kids got some emotional issues. Then they have a child young, and that spiral. Now there are people who've overcome that and made it work, and it's a proud moment when that happens. But that became the epidemic growing up in Harlem. You saw that firsthand.
Absolutely, absolutely. You see that firsthand. You got friends and family that have gone through it. So yeah, you see it firsthand. You and maybe that's what, like I said, maybe it's just a continuous spiral. And and we saw the beginning of it, and it turned into this, and then now it's where we are.
And sorry.
No,
Well, when you got, you know, more enhanced in your fame, did you ever want to maybe leave Harlem? You know,
No, I
branch
mean,
out?
no, because I didn't know anything else. So I didn't want to leave. I was just like, nah, I wasn't one of those kids that dreamed about going to all these different countries, and I still haven't gone to most of these countries. Like it was never really, it was never really a
Well,
thing
you're
of
still
mine.
dreaming.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my way out. I'm trying to
Yeah,
make
so
my
no,
way
I
out.
never wanted to leave Harlem. I never thought about it like that. I mean, when I first got to Cali, I was out of place. You know, I was like, what's going on out here? Like, you guys have cars at 15? And I'm not used to that. Like, I didn't think you could drive until you turned 21, you know?
I had a bus pass.
Right, yeah. I get on a train, man. What's going on? So,
It's the real Dickie Rob.
yeah, it's a whole different vibe. So, no, I didn't think about leaving Harlem. I never thought I wanted to be somewhere better. I thought Harlem was the best you could get.
Are there any, you know, organizations that, you know, you're a part of, or do you do any activist work, or something that's just dear to your heart, like a specific cause? that you...
I'm one of those people that I'm an activist on the outside. Like, I'm on the outside looking in at all these different things because I have a hard time joining up things. I have a hard time committing myself to things that are too big for me. Like, I don't want to find out later on that someone's not doing the right things, and I'd rather do it straight from me to whatever cause I'm going to do. I don't like being involved with all these organizations and groups. It's too much paperwork and too many. Like I said, everyone has an agenda. You don't even know if you're really supporting that cause. You know, it's like the commercials when you see the people eating or starving at night and they send you the 75 cents a day. Then you send it and you realize it's not going directly to them. It's like, it's too much of that, and it's been that for a long time. So I stay away from that. I kind of stay on the outside, on the fringes.
Sally Struthers.
It's gotten so big with that they actually now have those things at ATM machines.
Yeah,
When you put your card in, and then they ask you if you want to donate to
$1.
breast cancer and this, that, and it comes with all these different lists of organizations.
Every time I buy my body wash, somebody at Rite Aid asks me
somebody
that
from
shit.
Rite Aid to tell you.
And it's just sad because, you know, people are now, you know, you never want to be hesitant to do something great or be a part of something great. But like you said, you don't know where your money's going now. People are giving their money to FEMA, Red Cross. These countries wasn't seeing the money. They weren't getting the money. Now people are like, I don't know where my money's going to. And now it could be a cause that really need assistance. But people are now pulling back to just be a part of joining something great because you don't know what's going on. So it's just really creating a vicious cycle.
Yeah, and most of the things that I support are just children. So, you know, any Shriners hospitals, autism, children, anything. That's the stuff I support. So that's what I would champion, if anything.
We got a few minutes left. Now, again, I want to thank you.
Thank you
For coming through today.
Thank you.
I'd be remiss with Steps of Sonic and Bobby Simmons looking right in my face.
Here he goes.
That I know.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You're a DJ now.
I do
A lot of
DJ,
people really know that, you know, with all the you're in the music.
I've been, but see, I'm original. Like, I'm Technique 1200s and a mixer.
Okay.
You know, 2 records. This new era is fun. It's fun seeing all this new technology that's gone into DJing and
gotta get your muscles
getting the
up,
party
having
started.
crates
No more crates, man. And that used to be the excuse to have a crew with you. Now you can show up with your zip drive. That's your crew. That's crazy. Like, yo, I have no crew. The crew is part of the look. You know, like, you're supposed to have the whole DJ booth jumping.
So you be having people like, bring my
record. Bring the crate, bro. And then I used to, my homeboy Dade, man, he used to be able, when we'd help each other, my homeboy Dade and Tariq, 2 of my boys that we grew up with doing it. We used to pick records for each other and know what sound. Yeah, I know what you want to play next. You know, like that was the fun of it all. Now it's like, I'm just scrolling through my computer. Oh, got it.
Yeah, that's Charlie Murphy and that's Fruity. You know about Go ahead, Saf. I need a quick question.
Because a lot of people are asking me, do you have any projects? You know, what's next for you?
Yeah.
What do you have going on?
I'm shooting something right now that I'm trying to raise money for. So I'm shooting a teaser for it. That's why I have my beard. But yeah, this is a project called Oliver's Twist. I'm hoping that you guys will, when I throw it out, I'm putting it online. I'm gonna put the little teaser online. I'm hoping people like it.
We can actually run it
Yeah,
on
yeah.
950 networks. Shame
Oh,
to plug.
then there it is.
But
We gonna
I'm just
run it.
saying, you didn't hear that from me.
Yeah, it's a run. It's a teaser. It's a teaser. It's a teaser, man.
You
I
got
got
to
you.
cut it.
I got you. I'm
Okay.
definitely gonna shoot it you guys'
No
way,
doubt.
man. I'd love that, man. Any support we can have.
And you're raising money for
That project, yes,
that
Oliver's
project for
Twist. Yeah,
Oliver's
yeah.
Twist.
I'm
Now, is that
trying
gonna
to do
be a
that.
movie? Is that
It's a
gonna
film.
be-
It's a film. Yeah, it's a film. I can't give it away, but when you see the teaser, you just tell me what you think. Let me know how you
We
receive
would have
it.
to audition, right?
Yeah, you got audition.
No,
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
You're not auditioning.
You stay right behind this microphone.
Right.
You stay and wear your
Right.
Floyd Mayweather hat.
Hey, there you go, huh? Yeah.
Real quick, man, where can people reach out to you, support this project, reach out to you on social media?
Deon_Richmond is my social media, man. So DEON_RICHMOND. That's my social media. You'll see everything there, man. Instagram, Twitter. What else do I have? I have Facebook.
It's in there. Google.
don't-
Yeah, I'm old. Right? I'm old. I don't know all of these
I'm
things.
scared to ask you, do you know your Facebook?
No,
name?
yeah, that's it. Deon Richmond is my Facebook name.
I'm sure somebody got one there,
Yeah.
Kenny. He just
I
don't know
think
about
somebody helped me make a fan page recently. I didn't even know they had those. I'm confused sometimes. I'm like, it's just every day something else jumps up on your screen, a new app, and you got to use it and connect it to all the other apps.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that now. They spying on us. with
Oh
that
yeah,
now.
oh yeah, they gonna spy, man. They got us.
Deon Richmond. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for
brother.
having me,
Appreciate it.
guys. Thank you.
Yo, can I get it in the morning? Every Saturday I be up, no